Hello and welcome to this very comfortable episode of the Binge Thinker podcast. My name is Jameel Raymond. With me is a very good friend of mine, a special guest, Singapore's finest comedic export. Please welcome Mr. Garry Johal. Welcome, Gary.
Was a traditional Singaporean greeting.
Yeah?
Thanks for having me, bruh. No, it's not at all.
I know. The whitest.
The traditional one probably be some Hokkien vulgarity or something.
Is that Hokkien? Is that really their
No,
dialect?
it's just it's like one of the Chinese dialects, but it's like the national cursing dialect.
Right.
Like everyone just curses in that. And it's so good. It's one of the best languages for like fucking someone up. Can we curse?
Oh, fuck yeah.
Okay, cool.
Of course we
I
can.
don't know why I asked it. Like,
I know.
Like we're on the news or something.
Yeah, this is the furthest from the news it could be. None of this is factual. A lot of this is bullshit.
This is weird.
Yeah, but for the people at home, I have recently just updated yet again the studio, making it a bit more casual. Got some very sweet, what are they called? Like swivel chairs. You know, classic podcasting chairs you can swivel around in from Savers, $20 a pop.
These are actually very cool.
They're
very comfy.
It's so comfortable,
Very
man.
comfy,
Like
yeah.
I shudder to think about what horrific things have happened on these chairs over time.
Heaps of cocaine, lots of semen. It was fun time.
Yeah, and that's good, you know, and hopefully I can continue that tradition.
Maybe a couple of deaths.
Well, you know, probably because I mean, I get this from Savers, right? And if you look at the fucking fabric on this stuff, like honestly, this is definitely be some first owner, last owner shit. You know what I mean? Like
This
whoever owned these,
This is when
had this-
Cheech and Chong was in his teens.
yeah,
It's
great.
nice though. I like it. I like
Yeah.
the color as well.
yeah. Man, I might reupholster them. I don't know.
That's fine.
I don't give a fuck.
That's the Asian in you. You want to just upgrade it because
No.
we have high standards. You know? This is white people. They're like, this is fine. This presentation value. Asian people are like, nah, it's not good enough. Gotta
Well,
fix it
it's
up.
the leather and the weird like hippie haberdashery combination. It's a contrast. You know what I mean? Like pick one.
Hippie haberdashery should be a bad name.
It probably is. Honestly, I thought of Jess Pimmon when I said that. Hey, Jess. Oh, fuck. But yeah, man.
How's your neck?
Neck and gack. But yeah, Gary just came in to talk some shit. Maybe tell the people about yourself, your background. You are from Singapore, the good part. I just fucked that up beforehand.
Yeah, you call me
for the people at
Malaysian.
home.
It's
Yeah, I
terrible.
know.
It's one of the worst things in call it Singapore.
Mm.
No, shout out to Malaysia. I'm definitely not Singapore's best comedic export. It's very funny, very like really hilarious comic. Have you been to Singapore?
Just to the airport.
That's actually like the most Aussie answer ever. That's cool. Have you met any of the comics who came here?
I know there's Dr. Jason Leong.
He's Malaysian. Yeah.
Fuck. And so is Ronnie.
Same. Yeah, Ronnie Chang actually went to the same high school with me.
Really?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Pioneer Junior College, man. Shout out to PJC.
Fuck. And
Yeah, so that junior college has produced 2 comics, one really successful.
Give it time, man. Give it time. Who was that other really
It's,
Wei? What happened to Wei? Was he from
Wei is from Singapore. I don't know. He just fell off the face of the earth. Hopefully, he watched this and come back. I don't know what happened.
I think he went back to Singapore.
He went back and he just stopped doing comedy, which is such a pity.
Oh man, he was so good.
Yeah.
He was like, you know, Asia's best chance of the open micers back in the day when I first started.
He got on comics now fast as well.
Yeah.
He was just good. He was at every gig. He came here to do uni ostensibly, but he didn't give a shit. He was doing comedy. He's like proper comic, man.
Man, he was hilarious. He was original. He could say some shit.
He was a proper comic. He was doing comedy, failing uni, getting drunk.
Yeah.
Maybe trying some certain substances, which I should not get into because he is a Singaporean. It's not legal.
Chewing gum.
Yes, that's the one. It is green.
Yeah. That's so rough, man. Like, we were talking about before about like the conservatism of like Asian countries, particularly Southeast Asia. Like, is that going to modernize anytime soon? The conservatism of Singapore?
Yeah. I think Singapore has become a lot less conservative and more chilled out. Like, in terms of like what people say online and stuff, they can come after you.
Yeah.
But there's a few things that have happened. I can't think of any specific examples where they've kind of let it slide, which is kind of cool.
Right.
And I think also they're probably smart enough to know, like, if you did pursue it, you're just going to make yourself look bad and petty, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry about the small fry.
So, but is that from the government's perspective, or is that just other people snitching on each other for,
I think whatever
contempt?
the big authority is there, generally, I think we're just more chilled out.
Right.
But it's also still like super strict, like there's people who got prosecuted for not wearing masks during one of the lockdowns, like, just
Yep.
outside some bar, and there's 5 of them, and like, here it's like someone will shout at you and you shout back, and that's it. Cops don't give a shit.
Yeah.
There's like they prosecute, like you go to court, prosecute. There's been like expats who've had like their whole work permit taken away, been like deported to their countries, didn't wear masks. Like Singapore don't fuck around, man.
Yeah, but I don't mind that sometimes because
Yes.
we were talking about that before. It's just like, about how strict certain countries can be.
Mhm.
And there is a degree of social conservatism, and they bring that conservatism over when people migrate to Australia.
Mm.
And that's why, migrant families vote Liberal. We were talking
Yep.
about that before.
Yep.
And, and again, generally people coming for the better life, but yeah, they do want to keep a lot of the culture or the rules that are around certain issues. Like I'm not against corporal punishment. Like
yeah, no doubt.
I think it's a great idea. Quite personally, I'm pro death penalty. Like
Really, I'm surprised.
yeah,
in all cases, or
well, no, in extreme cases, like murder,
not for drug
rape.
smuggling, though, right?
No,
Okay,
no.
yeah.
But like extreme cases, like, if you are like mass murder, I don't know if rape gets it, but
Mass murder. How many corpses though? What's your number?
1-to-1.
Okay.
Anything past 1. Anything intentful. Like if you're like, do the if you have to do some of the numbers in some of these people, right? Like if you're like 40 and you're getting 30 years, I mean, maybe, or if you've done like multiple and you're getting like life,
Yeah.
and it's like a pretty serious life,
Mm.
what's the point? Because like, we don't like to say this, right? It's a bit heavy to say, but like, the government is a big corporation,
Mhm.
and humans are the resources in that corporation. The citizens are the resources in that corporation. Now they're constantly judging us or, leveling us based on our ability to generate tax revenue and income. That's why they want people to have good jobs, and that's why they want people to have education, and that's why they want to bring in migrants who bring in tax revenue, because it's just like tourism dollars, right?
Yeah.
It builds the economy. But if you are like, a serious business person and you're going, okay, I think it's like $100,000 plus to keep an inmate in per year.
Mhm.
So you're going to spend $3 million of taxpayers' money on a 30-year jail sentence, right?
I was just thinking, Singapore probably costs like $2,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw this documentary about like Singapore's maximum security, Changi Prison,
Yeah.
which by the way is a pre-war prison complex, most of it or some of it.
Right.
Like, Lockheed's grandfather was in Changi Prison during the war. Like,
Really?
Yeah, because the Anzacs were there and Singapore fell to the Japanese. So like Changi Prison was a prison back then.
Was it a POW prison?
It was just a prison, and then during the Japanese occupation, it became a POW prison,
Yeah.
and then now it's just a prison.
Right.
It's I think maximum security, but there was a documentary about it, and it's insane how like it's just strict. There's no drug smoke, none of that. Like no one's getting raped in the shower, none of that shit.
Really? That's a positive, isn't it?
That's a bonus.
Yeah, like sure you can't fucking do drugs in jail, but at least your asshole's intact.
At least you're getting your rocks off.
Yeah, but Singaporean dicks, probably not that big a deal.
You get to call your cellmate daddy. But no, it was like really strict, and the cell is really small. You don't get a mattress. You just get a straw mat, no pillow. You get 2 blankets. One blanket will basically become your pillow.
Yeah.
But there's like, this is Singapore in a nutshell. It's so strict, right? So you get a little clear box to put the few belongings. They give you toothbrush, toothpaste, 1 soap, 1 toilet roll, whatever.
Yeah.
And you can't just put that anywhere you want in the cell. There's a designated area. It has to be there. There's 2 hooks. You can hang 2 things. Cannot have a 3rd hook. Like all this kind of stuff. And then in the morning, whatever, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., lights on. You have to wake up. You can't just sleep.
Yeah.
You have to brush. You have to shave. You have to shave.
Mhm.
Unless you have a beard for religious reasons or whatever, I think.
Yeah, Muslims.
Like
and
it's
whatever.
just so strict. It's so strict. Like and it's not like Oz and all these other shows and like people go and have chow and none of that. It's just so fucking strict. I was just struck by how strict it was. Like boring because I've seen a lot of these prison shows.
Yeah.
Locked up, banged up abroad, and all that.
Mm.
And it's so wild. And Singapore's one is like, ooh, maximum security, but it's just boring. It's just so strict. You can't do anything.
I don't think the morning routine's a bad idea necessarily.
No. It's just really interesting, especially being after here for many years, about how like there's like liberty in terms of like just do whatever you want. No such thing, man. Like, I mean, not in this prison system in Singapore,
Yeah.
which I don't think is a bad thing, but it's just really interesting about how like if that was here with stuff like they'll be like someone will fight for someone to be able to grow out their hair. It's like, why can't I grow out my hair? Why do I have to wake up at 7? You're impinging on my human rights. And I don't know where I stand on that. It's just interesting that it's so strict. And the prison is like the ultimate example over there. You should watch the show, man. It's not super interesting, but it's just like there's nothing interesting happening. It's just like, wow, that looks like torture.
Right. But do they, like, when you say nothing though, what's the extracurricular activities? That they have the gym, they have the library.
They get a little bit of exercise, and they do get quite a bit of, looks like they get quite a bit of help and rehab and all that, because they are really trying to stop the recidivism rates, but it's not as good as they want it to be.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people also, like, maybe at that stage, I don't know, who knows what's going on in your life, how damaged you are, what prospects you have, you leave prison, you know, like, it's so regimented. I mean, it's like those fat cunts who are on Biggest Loser.
Yeah.
You know, they changed their lives, you know, 6 months later, they've lost all this weight, they've become a different person, and then 2 months in, you're still the same fat bastard you were. because the fat was the symptom.
Yeah.
What was happening was way underneath.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and that hasn't been resolved. So you just go right back to it, right?
Yeah. And, you know, sure, they show how good, you know, people are 6 months on, but there are plenty of people that fucking rebound and fall back in.
Yeah.
Because you got to replace that habit. And you're absolutely right. If you haven't solved the problem as to why you were fat in the first place inside yourself, you can bounce back.
Have you heard of Gabor Mate?
Yeah. The Wisdom of Trauma. That's a fucking great movie.
And is it a movie?
There's a documentary called The Wisdom of Trauma by Dr. Gabor Mate. But yeah, go on. I'll talk about my.
No, I like what he said, where he was like, I think he says, don't ask why the addiction, ask why the pain.
Correct.
And that's like, it blew my mind. And
yeah.
You realize, like, yeah, it's not just someone who's, you know, an alcoholic, sex addict, whatever. There's some demon underneath, you know? Something happening. Is it really just bad habits over many years? There's probably something else underneath.
No, it's trauma. So I talked about, so there's a movie called The Wisdom of Trauma that he did, the documentary / movie. Amazing film. Changed my perspective to the nature of addiction and why we do what we do. And yeah, the trauma, like most addiction comes from unresolved traumas and childhood insecurities that we try, instead of resolving, and it's too painful to address within ourselves, we numb to it in some way or form. It could be alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever the addiction is. Yeah. The addiction, the drug isn't necessarily the problem itself. You're right, it's the symptom. The problem is whatever they have not resolved within themselves. Maybe it's a lack of psychological safety, maybe it's a lack of attention, maybe it's a lack of security, you know, in their childhood, whatever it is, something that's terrible that's happened to them. And instead of processing that pain, they try and just pile on top of it with drugs, alcohol, whatever it is. And that applies to everyone. Everyone. Yeah. Whatever addiction you have, whatever bad habits you have, whatever those recurring negative thoughts are in your own head, they are the results of unresolved wounds and trauma in your own body. And one of the things that he said that really changed their perspective when it comes to like observing others, very similar to what you said, is like, instead of thinking what's wrong with someone, you think about what happened to them.
Oh my God. That was that book. You know that book? It's called What Happened to You?
No.
It's by Oprah Winfrey and some doctor. I'm ashamed.
Dr. Oz? Or someone else?
I don't know. It's like some legit doctor who's
so not Dr. Oz.
Studied his trauma for like decades and decades.
Yeah.
And then just an expert at treating trauma, especially in kids, and all this like really fucked up. Kids have seen their parents murdered, all this kind of stuff. And in that book, so Oprah has just helped publish the book. It's not her book. Don't think any less of it.
Hey, Oprah is great.
No, but some people just hear like, oh, it's Oprah. But anyway, so in that book, they were Yeah, so one of the tenets of that book was like, and the book is called "What Happened to You," and
Mm.
the whole thing is don't ask what happened to you. Wait, what were you saying?
So don't ask what's wrong with you. Ask
Yeah,
what
sorry,
happened to you.
don't ask what's wrong with you. Is what happened to you, because
Yeah.
there's all these people who had trauma and stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's it. Is that our traumas are just they're almost traits. They're personality traits that are ingrained from a very early age. But you can change those by changing the narrative and being able to look inside your shit, look deep, right, and really honestly just face that pain. And it kind of sucks, and you will cry and you will process that shit. And I've done that many times now, to the point where the things that I'm trying to solve at the moment in my own life, it's like, okay, I can see that I've got this gap. Oh, I got to go through this fucking again and figure out what childhood shit, what moments in my life made me feel less than or whatever. And I've got to address those and feel that fucking feeling, and it's going to suck. So I understand that process now of healing.
Yeah,
But it doesn't make it any less difficult, because the traumas and the shit that I'm dealing with don't get easier to process. If anything, I'm going deeper into some shit. So it goes darker, and
Oh, really?
it's even harder, So understanding the process makes it easier, but the things that I'm trying to process are harder and darker and, deeper in the core of who I am.
Sounds scary.
It sucks. It really sucks.
Are you doing this with a therapist?
Yeah. So I do I do it with a therapist. I also do a lot of self-analysis because, the therapist sort of facilitates the conversation with yourself, and tries to open up the wounds, the memories, or the moments in your life that, you think about it like the little flickers in your head, those childhood memories that flicker back once in a while. And you might even see them or feel them when you are present in a situation triggers you, or that you feel, ugh.
Yep.
Right? You might get that whisper of that old narrative in your own head.
See, the situation that triggers me is like daily life, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel it every day.
Yeah. Well, I felt the same as well. Like, a few years ago in particular, just, in a very highly emotionally dysregulated state all the time. So I would have, much be quicker to anger.
Emotionally dysregulated.
Yeah.
What was that? What does that look like?
So it's like, it's like your nervous system's dysregulated. So you're living in a constant state of stress, so chronic stress. And that came for me from a lack of safety in my childhood home, and then also a lack of emotional safety in the home that I was with my ex. Now, I wasn't aware of that, or I wasn't necessarily aware that was part of the problem until I left and was in my own space and in my own home, and I could feel like I could truly relax at home, because I couldn't truly relax when I was living with my parents, because they had a stressful relationship and I was caught in the middle of it. So every time that they were, even when I go visit them now, I feel that tension, the childhood tension, of what's going to happen now. Shit's going to go wrong.
Perform a certain role. Like you can't just be yourself and chill.
No. So it's very hard for me to do that. And I've kept a significant barrier between my personal life and the life that I show in front of my family. Because I do not feel like, and I for a very long time have not felt like I could be my true self in front of them. And that's
so interesting.
Yeah. And that came from a child, and I was an only child till I was 12. And my parents fought a lot, and they were emotionally distant, and that sort of stuff. And because I was a sensitive only child, I was caught in the middle of that a lot. So in my own mind, my entire world is in conflict constantly. And that shit weighs you down. And instead of you go into survival mode. We were talking about before about self-actualization and being your best self. No, I'm too busy emotionally trying to shield myself from the pain of the conflicts happening in my world every single day. And then so I felt that as a kid, all the way up until my adult, when I was still living with my parents. And then I moved with my partner. And from there, I felt a different sort of emotion, a lack of emotional safety. So there was this underlying tension that I could not feel like I could be my true self around them all the time. because they're just that wounding and those patterns that I learned from when I was at home. Sort of, I carried that as the acceptable behavior to how to interact with people in my personal life and the way that I relate to my partner and others. So that means, and then by doing that, the same shit, the same loops, the same problems occurred in my personal relationship. And I felt exactly the same. Like, fuck, I cannot be myself. I can't be who I am because I'm scared I'm going to get judged or I'm going to get in trouble or something. Or there's going to be conflict.
Yeah.
And then, once I left and was on my own and, lived in my own space and was okay to be, it was okay to be myself, that's when things opened up, right? Because I created emotional safety within myself and sort of healed that shit myself. And, I avoid the situations for a while where that would put me in conflict. And thankfully, lockdown was perfect for that because I was just in my own little bubble and that sorting my shit out. And I think that's what a lot of people do nowadays is when, post-lockdown, people are coming back and people are less active. They don't want to do as much. They're just as comfortable being at home because they've realized that, I'm actually okay being on my own and being in my own space and I'm not have to be part of the rat race because I've realized now that I'm away from these shitty, toxic situations that you might not know are shitty. You go, I've stepped away from those fucking dumb cunt friends or, that shitty job.
Yeah.
Or that toxic boss that I don't have to, make shitty small talk with every day.
Yep.
And I feel pretty good like this. And then you want to keep that energy. And by keeping that energy, that's why people make decisions in their life to change because that's valuable. That energy, that feeling, that sense of identity is more powerful than the money and the time that you spend in your day-to-day life maintaining that. You go, you'll give up, it's like things like the Great Resignation, for example. People will give up, what they've got now because they've gone back to work and the energy fucking sucks and they sense better energy elsewhere in the potential of something new and different. And that's what I think, a lot of the trends that we see socially at the moment are linked back to this incubatory period of time where we've had time to ourselves. If you're fortunate to have time to yourself and have space to heal and process your shit and be out of a toxic situation. And that's what I was tremendously lucky with that.
Yeah.
But some people didn't have that, right? But all the things I've just told you now.
Most people didn't have that.
Maybe.
I feel like you're the exception, man, which is great. Like, that's awesome. I mean, I don't know. I'm just judging by the 16 people I know.
Yeah.
No, there was a big change in you, I remember.
Yeah, it's huge.
Dude, after lockdown, you were unrecognizable, man. You're all ripped and shit.
Yeah.
Not that you were like a fat fuck before that.
I was a bit of a fat fuck, and I've been a kind of a fat fuck my entire life.
You're like, but like you're like a chubby, you're like
schlubby,
just a bit chubby, but just normal, kind of open mic. No.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I don't think it's an insult at all. It's just reality, bro.
No, but like just not like just normal, not like just normal's kind of dude. And I remember after lockdown, I was like, the fuck, Jameel got traps, bro. Like,
yeah.
I remember that first gig at Gorilla.
Yeah.
That first one back, and like I was like, fuck, man, this guy can catch rabbits in those traps. Ripped.
I've always had good traps, but the rest of my body shaped around it to make it.
That was like a proper change.
Yeah. But again, I've talked about it plenty of times. That's what's excited this podcast. Just it was an awakening. It was, I've suffered way too fucking much. I've observed my suffering and I've seen it. I did nothing about it for the longest time. Why? I'm not going back. It's a conscious, consistent decision to push myself, to pull myself out of that situation and to be, again, now constantly be self-actualizing and going, okay, I've gotten over these things. What can I keep building on now?
Yep.
And that's what this process for me is now, really, is that I'm self-actualizing by taking big leaps and starting my own shit and taking risks. But in that process of self-actualization, there is still this constant unpeeling of the self, the previous traumas, the previous bullshit that I know is preventing me from taking me to next levels.
Yep.
So, part of what I do now is, like I said, we've had many conversations in the past about sorting your shit out. mental health.
Man, I reached
healing.
out to you one time when it was dark times. I was having
Yeah.
a particularly dark day. Yeah, it was rough. No, it was
Yeah,
good
man.
though. You helped.
Yeah, man. Because that's the thing is that I'm glad
Actually,
to.
I think it's honestly probably because of you. You're a big reason why I gacked into therapy.
Yeah.
Like I started proper a few months ago. I think I'm like, I don't know, I think I'm 10 sessions in maybe.
Fuck
Or
yeah,
8
man.
or something. Something like that. I
Yeah, I'm
can't
so
remember.
glad to hear it because you were sort of like on the cusp last time we talked about it.
I think the last few like there's been a few times where I was in need of therapy, and then I saw like whoever I saw was just a fucking charlatan. Like I
Mm.
remember one lady, it was like she went to TAFE and just was like, is that one booked up? Sure, I'll do psychology.
Yeah,
She had
yeah,
no
yeah.
fucking clue what was
Mm.
going on. It was very like it's just like because I've had intense therapy before
Yeah.
when I was midway through uni.
Mhm.
I flunked out 2 semesters and none of my friends know. I just lied to everyone and said I'm doing a honors year or some
Yeah.
bullshit. Like Singaporean, you can't tell people you failed. They're like,
Yeah.
what's wrong with you, Uyghur?
Hang on, give me one sec. You may be paranoid again just about fucking recording. No, we're good. All right.
That's so weird because I was actually thinking about that 5 minutes ago.
Yeah,
Like,
man, I get paranoid about it all the fucking time. And yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, we're good.
But so anyway, I've had like intense therapy before. It was really good, and that was it was like the Melbourne Uni, like the psychology department. So it's basically a postgrad student, but I'm her final year project, and then
Yeah,
it's
great.
all recorded, and then she has a team of other cunts who will like follow up and look at all the because it was very good and it was weekly. It was weekly for 12 weeks. It was so good.
Mm.
So then I didn't have it for many years, and like some stuff happened in my life. It was very dark, and then I was like, all right, let's go see a psychologist. And I saw one, and for a few sessions, just shit. And I
Mm.
saw another really fancy one in Clifton Hill. She had the fancy office and all that, and she just like, I just saw her for one session, but she's just like listening to me, all sympathetic. I'm like, fuck, I got friends to do this shit. Why am I
Yeah.
paying so much? But I was like, I don't have time. I need to sort this shit out.
Yeah.
But after you got your shit sorted, and there was a big physical transformation as well,
Mm.
then I was like, all right, this guy definitely got his shit sorted out.
Yeah.
Then a few people, actually, Amna is the one who told me about Schema Therapy Institute.
Ah.
Yeah, she was like, they're really good. So I was like, all right, I'll gack them.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did like the pre-interview thing. But I remember telling the guy, right, I was like, this is what I want. I knew what I wanted though. I was like, this is what I want. I don't want someone to just be sympathetic and like, is that really true? Fuck that. I'm not paying $250 a session for that.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I also want this to end because I believe like there's an end point to the therapy. It's not just a lifestyle thing. You just, I'm in therapy for 30 years. Like I'm some Manhattanite. Like I'm remember like Woody Allen in all these movies. They're just like one of the markers of being rich is like, yeah, I'm in therapy. It's just, it's like, it was the yoga of the 90s.
Yeah, that's a good
But,
one.
and then, but basically I was like, I mean, I don't know when it'll end, whatever. But the point is, I want to do real work and like really, really change it. Like, let's get to it. Let's not fuck around, talk about this for fucking ages. And it's been so good. It's been so intense, but it's been really good. I remember every single session I go in, I'm like, this is going to be the one I won't cry in. I'll be 40 minutes in, I'll be like, everything's going in. She'll say one thing, like one kind of terminology, which I don't want to say now because I'll start crying right now. But she'll say one thing and like, wow, fucking hits me right in the core, like the weakest, not really, the most vulnerable part of you, that thing in the core that you're hiding the most, that's maybe been scarred or whatever, you're like holding it in. And she'll say the one thing and my lips start quivering like, no, I can't do this on a Tuesday morning, bruh. I can't cry like a bitch to go work.
Yeah, I know.
But it's really good though. It's really, really good.
Yeah, but you can't fight it, right? Of course, you will fight it. By default, you will try and fight that. But you can't, and you've got to. It's like deep. It's like throwing up. You know what I mean?
It is a purging. Yeah.
It's a purge, like
big time.
I see, like during my most intense periods of going through some shit, I feel literal purging sensations in my body. Like literally, my stomach will hollow out a little bit, and I'll feel like sometimes. And like literally just something comes.
By the way,
out.
I hope no one's listening to this while they're eating, because that bit.
No, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. Yeah, that's healing, baby. That's a tactical.
Enjoy your eggs, bitch.
Yeah, that's a tactical spiritual vomit. You know.
Sorry. Go on.
But yeah, you can't avoid it. But I'm really glad to hear that you're getting some shit out of it, man. Oh, feet touch, no homo.
No doubt. That's
Yeah.
intimacy.
Talk
I never
about
have a
feelings
problem
and
with
touching
intimacy, though.
I do actually. So yeah, but
Let's talk about that. Do you want to?
Oh, we can at some point. I don't know how much time we've got left. We can.
But,
I don't give a fuck. But yeah,
Yeah, no, therapy is great. I really like it.
yeah. And then so this modality, this schema therapy, I've never heard of it.
It's basically, I guess, like a form of CBT.
So cognitive behavioral therapy for those playing at home.
And then basically like changing the way you think, I guess, and also like so we've got this schema, which are like these sort of thoughts or ways of understanding the world that are very deep set, that probably formed mostly during childhood.
Mhm.
And it can be helpful or unhelpful. Like a helpful schema can be like, if you try really hard, put in the work, you will succeed. That's a great core kind of thing to have.
Yeah.
But if you got another schema that's like, the world is a dangerous place and you're vulnerable, or like you're never good enough, or you're foolish, or you're stupid or something, that's not a good one to carry. That's gonna fuck you up. And
Correct.
I'm a 36-year-old grown ass punk ass man, and I'm still dealing with that shit.
Yeah.
So, and that shit don't go away. You
It
hide
doesn't.
it.
Yeah.
What it is like, it's like you got this vulnerable little fucking duckling or something, and then you just put leaves over it, and then you put a little hard shell, and you put leaves, and you put a hard shell, and you have this exterior, and you're like, all right, it's protected. But that bitch is still a duckling. It hasn't grown up into a falcon. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's not that's still that little baby vulnerable thing in there that hasn't been dealt with. And maybe someone told that duckling, you ain't shit or whatever.
Yep.
And that's not been dealt with, but you learn how to cover it up. Because you kind of have to cover it up and then grow up and be a grown person moving around this world.
Yep.
And then, I guess if you don't deal with it, it'll fuck. Like, I don't know. I think a lot of people move through the world with these things and they've found a way to kind of be functional. But for me, it was really like gacking me up with stuff, especially with comedy.
Yep.
Like, it was me. I wasn't taking opportunities, wasn't reaching out. I wasn't trying hard. Like, the number of people have told me, like, how come there's no clips of you online? And I'm like, I've recorded probably 30, 40 hours of footage of my gigs. There's not one clip of me online.
Really?
The last one was from some gig years ago that I recorded on my phone, and I was drunk and I put it up. That's what it took. I needed to be drunk for me to fucking put it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But like, I've not put anything up because there's like a whole bunch. I got all these hang-ups and shit.
I'm the same, man. I'm exactly the same. This, and I've said this before, this podcast, I've been thinking about doing something for years. The Binge Thinker, I did a radio show on Swinburne at university in 2013, 2014. That's how long I've had the name sitting in my head. I did a radio show and I fucking panicked because I didn't realize how difficult it was to actually talk for an hour while doing a student radio show. But like literally up until this year, even putting photos of myself up, and I still have this problem now. I'm still extremely self-conscious. Like part of this podcast and why I delayed doing this, I wanted to do it for ages, is because I was so self-conscious about the way that I look on camera. Because, my entire adult life, I've avoided photos because I felt awkward and I felt ugly and I felt less than because I've been made fun of my physical appearance my entire life, even to the point where I would, start using, self-depreciation as a defense mechanism. Yeah. That my self-depreciation became a defense tool when I was like 11, 12 years old. I know that for a fact. I was always funny, but then I use it on myself to defend myself from other people hurting me with what they said.
You cut them off at the pass.
That's how you survive. 100%. And then even now, like as I'm getting
all of us fat cunts are funny.
Yeah.
You're not fat anymore, but
but I'm not as funny either. It's a fucking pain in the ass, man. I have to work.
The moral of the story is never lose weight. You gotta choose, man. Either comedy success or you be ripped. Choose one.
Yeah. No, Kevin Hart's got it, but he's also short. You can't.
Joe Rogan's got abs and he's 54.
Yeah, but he's also on gear.
On testosterone.
Yeah, that helps. Right, he's also a hard cunt. That's actually not.
Also, he works out like an ass.
Yeah. I shouldn't just blame it all on the test. It's actually, a hard ass. But yeah, that I understand that self-consciousness, man, and exactly the stories we tell ourselves, because as it relates to schema, the stories we tell ourselves, right? What are the narratives, the core narratives in our own heads that we tell ourselves subconsciously that prevent us from being present in the moment and trying to push forward with these things.
Yep.
Right? Like even putting up, doing this podcast, being in front of the camera. The first pod I did audio only because I was too afraid to be in front of the camera, which is so strange because yes, we're comedians, right? You put me on stage, I don't give a fuck. But you show me the video of my set, even if I've crushed, I'm like, what is wrong with my face?
They were so interesting. Like everyone, we carry our own hang-ups and everything. I would have never guessed that's yours because, like, for me, I'm like, yeah, see a picture of Jameel, like, yeah, it's Jameel.
But that's the thing,
normal-looking guy,
exactly
like,
right.
Looks like everyone. I mean, not looks like everyone else, but just looks.
That's fucking Asian shit,
But like it's just Jameel looks like Jameel. Normal-looking dude.
That's exactly the same. I look out in the world.
But you never know what someone's thinking inside.
Yeah. And that's why I say it's so important to change your internal world.
I do want to add this though. I think so, but the reason therapy I think is important is because you might recognize this. Like I'm pretty self-aware and smart when it comes to like all like what's going on in my head and all. Like from a young age, I already knew like okay. From like 11 or 12, I was already like, okay, this is fucked up, and I know this is not a good coping mechanism. Like I could recognize it. Maybe I watched a lot of TV. I don't know, but I think you need therapy because, like what you said, you have that narrative and you have that story, but to change that one, you do need professional help. I think it's very because I've tried, man. I've tried fucking how many fucking self-help books can you read? And you do all this, and you can work out like an asshole, and you can. And you journal and meditate and all that's all great, but like with some of the stuff, like you really need professional help to change that narrative. And I think that's important to say because as a brown cunt myself, I've got relatives who, when they found out I was seeing a psych a couple of years ago, they treated it like they found out I was doing drugs. They're like, "Why you seeing a psychologist?" Oh, yeah. And my uncle is like, "Gary, please, I'm telling you, he's like having a heart to heart. I want you to stop." It's like he found out I was doing meth. He's like, I want you to stop.
Fuck.
What you need to do is you need to say, prayer, like Bart, like the Sikhism. They like say prayer, say God's name. I'm like, I don't believe in that shit, man. It's like hocus pocus. I might as well say abracadabra. I'm an atheist.
Yeah.
Which is a whole other thing. I'm like, then that turned it on him. I was like, well, you say like, do all these Sikh prayers. How do you know you're not supposed to be Muslim or Christian? Maybe you're in the wrong race. You're supposed to be Buddhist.
Yeah.
I was like, but it's like in the Asian brown community, like mental health just doesn't exist.
No,
like Amna's slide during the Surviving Brown, there's one part where we do a presentation and then she's like, as mental health in like the brown world, how to survive brown mental health, and the slide is just 404 not found. They always got such a big laugh because it's so true. Like, my uncle and grandma were both like, as soon as they found out I was in therapy, not, oh, poor Gary, what's going on? Can we help? Talk to us. First thing was like, no, stop.
Yeah.
No, stop. And no helpful thing, no substitute. My uncle was like, say prayers. And like, all right, sweet.
Yeah.
So basically, want me to go kill myself.
Yeah.
Because we do have a family friend or whatever, or possibly distant cousin who did commit suicide.
Fuck.
And obviously, she was in a very, very dark place. Something happened, man. And I've got a few friends who've killed themselves.
Yeah.
And, the thing is, like, someone should have intervened. Someone should have helped. I wish someone was there. And if she got that fucking message of like, yeah, no, just say prayers and shit, like, fuck off, man.
Yeah.
You need help. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
That's bullshit Indian culture. Like, I don't know, it pisses me off so much because it's such horse shit. And,
it's
and
rough.
they never acknowledge it as well. Like after she passed, everyone lied and said, oh, she got a stomach problem or anything. She fucking killed herself. We all know.
Yeah.
She was in pain. It was an untreated like injury, psychological injury.
Yeah.
If someone had a fucking knife wound, you would send them to the hospital. This is like a knife wound in your psyche, which will bleed you out.
Yes.
Like Anthony Bourdain killed himself, man.
Yeah.
Robin Williams killed himself. Like, this shit is serious. It really is, can be terminal.
Yeah, it is. Right?
And it should be treated with respect and not just like cast off as like, there's some nonsense or like, why are you so sad? Just, that's my favorite. My mom said, and my mom's lovely, like she understands all this, but back in the day, she didn't really. My brother was going through some shit.
Yeah.
And she's like, why are you so sad? Don't. Stop being so sad.
Yeah.
She just beat it out of him. Just need to find the right wooden spoon
yeah.
to solve this mental health crisis.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I get. And that's the thing is like, I mean, in Eastern cultures, Asian cultures, they abuse the medical system anyway, right? Because the reason why you become a doctor in the family is A, family pride, and B, you just get everything can be solved with medicine, with tablets, with drugs, right? My uncle came here from Pakistan, and he brought his family here, and he wants the antibiotics every time. He wants the drugs every time, the medicine every time he goes to the doctor.
Yep.
They just think it's this physical malady. And there's really no space or there's not really much of a gap for religion and psychology because the answer is supposed to be God every time.
Yeah.
Right? The answer is always the external power that is judging us and that is implicating these things on us. And we have to suffer through these troubles because this is what God's put in front of us to make us stronger. This is part of the narrative. That's not the reality, is right? There's this complete lack of self-awareness or this acknowledgement of the internal dialogue because we're all thinking this shit, right?
Yeah.
We're all thinking these fucking dark thoughts and we're all thinking about these problems and suffering and managing troubles all the time. We all are. But again, like you said, there's different layers of repression and suppression to it. And yeah, I think one of the reasons why you hear people talking about breaking intergenerational trauma the most in Asian culture is because it has the most to break. Because at least in the Western world, there is this very individualistic schema or this story about you have to be the best individual, the best you, right? You're in this competitive capitalistic society.
Yep.
So the Western society always emphasizes the individual, whilst Eastern culture emphasizes the community and the collective and the family unit.
100%.
So that's what by focusing on the individual and having that self-analysis of self and the skills you need to be that better person, you're more open to the idea of maybe I do need to see a therapist, maybe I need to see a psychologist. Why am I thinking like this, right? But also, yeah, that question of self-awareness isn't repressed so much in the West as it is in the East because the answer to the fundamental spirit of who we are is always a God. Maybe not the Buddhists so much because obviously they are in a constant search for self and
I was just
enlightenment.
thinking about Buddhism. Like Buddhism, I think if anyone wants to force religion on you when you're not feeling good, if anything, yeah, sure, Buddhism. Because Buddhism is probably the most like intellectual of all the religions.
Yeah.
Have you heard Joseph Campbell's lectures on Buddhism and stuff? Quite interesting.
No, I mean, I've talked about the hero's journey a lot on this pod.
Exactly. Like, and Buddhism is great, man. It's so like evolved because the whole thing is like erase desires, get rid of your possessions, think, like look within, the Eightfold Path, all this and that, meditation. Like, it's really smart for something that was, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, whatever.
Yeah.
Longer.
Well, that's it. Buddhism isn't necessarily a religion. It is, this philosophy that is based on ancient readings, texts, and like all of the great stuff from, that permeates from today. I've talked about it's ancient wisdom. We've known these things, and then they get wiped away for the various powers that be that take away the knowledge and education. But we sort of end up coming back to these central truths again. But yeah, look, I've certainly studied a little bit of Buddhism early in my own little awakening. I referred to Buddhism.
Yeah.
And, there is this thing about, awakening is always closely aligned with the spirit. Spirituality is always closely aligned with Buddhism because they're the ones that probably talk the most about this awakening and this peeling away of ego and desire to get to the truest form of self. And then, ideally, once you've hit nirvana and you've pulled yourself out of samsara, which is the constant cycle of suffering and birth and death, you basically become, you wake up to the collective consciousness. You wake up to the singularity, the oneness of all connected things. And that's what we're seeing now in every dialect of spirituality all connects back to that.
Mhm.
And the first people that were talking about that were the ancients, was the Buddhists, was the Sufis, was, every other sort of, even the Tao, the Taoists, right,
Mm.
in China. Everyone connects back to the source, the singularity. And then with Buddhism, I've forgotten what it's called now, but I certainly thought when I first had my awakening, I was like, holy shit, I've had, this alignment to the path.
Mhm.
And that sort of cemented to me about what was happening to where I was. I felt that alignment. I think there's a whole pathway to it, but there's like 4 different levels to it.
Is that the eightfold path?
Maybe it's the Eightfold Path. Maybe if I go see if I look it
Is that
up.
time for a toilet break?
Yeah, we could take a quick break. We're back.
No doubt.
We were talking about various stages of awakening in Buddhism. And then, I was talking about the 4 planes of liberation. So the 4 stages of enlightenment in
Mhm.
Buddhism. And the first one is about stream entry, right? So there's 4 stages to the attainment of Buddhist enlightenment. So the stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahant. And as you evolve through those stages, you have different, you've abandoned, certain conversations, certain lines, certain truths, certain aspects of existence
Mhm.
within yourself. One of those things is the disidentification from the ego, right?
Mhm.
And the core of that for me is like when like you said, you knew for a while, like you had that seed of that self-awareness and you weren't caught. You said you understood that you were being dragged around in those emotional states and the ego, and you identify wholly as yourself as those emotions all the time.
Mhm.
And then the process of awakening, you disidentify from those emotional dysregulation, the emotions that you experience all the time. And you go, wait, there is actually a more centered sense of self in here, better sense of self.
Mhm.
And in that process, that's what the process of awakening is in some ways. And, is the idea of I am not just these thoughts in my head.
Mm.
I am not just going to be swept away in the simplistic desires that come into my head. I am not a victim to all of these thoughts all the time. And then once you understand that and you realize that there's something beyond yourself than these thoughts that swirl around in your brain all the time, that's the process of awakening.
Yeah.
So once, for me, that process of where I think I am, and I could be very wrong about this, but this is certainly something that has integrated into my own psyche and my own belief system about these principles. So, stream entrant, which is where I think I am, is just basically awakening, opening the eye of the Dharma.
Mhm.
And what that means is, you go, fuck, there is more to life than the processes in my brain. There is this search for more, this search for meaning, the
Mhm.
exploration of consciousness, the exploration of identity.
Mhm.
And, once you have gone through that process and had that realization, you can't go back. You
Mm.
can't go back to just settling into that ego, into those emotions. You're going to be fighting those pain, that desire. You go through this process of healing and transformation,
Mhm.
and you can't stop because you understand the benefits of it and you don't want to go back to that. It's like once you're awake, you can't go back to sleep.
Mhm.
You don't want to be that person
Have you
that's
met
asleep.
Hamish?
Yeah. Well, and again, right? And here's the thing, right? Once you realize that, that's what woke was supposed to be when it was well intentioned, right?
Yeah.
When you talk about this awakening, right,
Yeah.
is to just have a better perspective, a better lens on what's going around in the wider world and why we are so influenced by, the social factors that apply to everyday life.
Mm.
But then somehow it got tarnished from being awakened and being more socially aware to just being woke,
Yeah.
which does have some relevance, right? Because a lot of that is people do get caught up in that intentfulness
Mm.
to just self-fulfill, to make them feel good about being a lefty or whatever it is. So there's a difference between being woke and being awakened
Yeah.
or going through the awakening process. And for me, that process of awakening happened, during the lockdowns, during my transformation, once I'd have achieved some things.
Mm.
And then
But did it take a radical shift in reality. Like basically the whole world stopped. Because I think for a lot of people, it kind of shook them out of whatever they were in.
Yeah.
It was just, in whatever way, like the whole world stopped. Just to have like, here in Australia, we had like Melbourne, we had lockdowns, 8 o'clock curfew and all this kind of stuff. And it was just such a radical shift. It's so interesting just to see what life would be like without work. And normally you never get to do that apart from your 2 weeks, 4 weeks leave in a year.
Yeah.
So is that what made everything change?
No, it was beautifully timed that happened. So, I had been fighting my better judgment and my gut and my intuition for years.
Yeah.
And that permeated in the way that I was harming myself physically and mentally, right? I would, smoke and, I'd hide my smoking, like smoking weed away from my partner. I would hide away my true feelings and emotions from other people. I couldn't be myself. And as I got closer to taking another step with my partner, who I knew was not right for me, that gut was shaking me to my core. And then I had an epiphany. Like I just was like, I was falling apart. I was having anxiety attacks. I was mentally breaking down. This is about, between, April and October 2020 or 2019. So I was feeling this rumble in me of just like, I'm getting anxiety. I'm like, things are fucked.
Yeah.
I cannot go. My gut's telling me I cannot go on this trip. I was supposed to go away with my partner.
Yeah.
On a backpacking trip for a year. Together.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Damn. That's intense, man.
Yeah.
That's so intense.
Yeah. And, in all that.
You didn't, right?
No, clearly
not.
not.
Yeah, of course we had COVID.
Yeah. And so, but, there was this building tension in that time in the relationship previous to that where I was like, I was enjoying comedy and I always thought I could do great things with comedy because I've always been naturally funny and, there was all these crumbs in my life, about things that I was naturally great at because I was a really talented, smart kid when I was younger, but I, again, repressed that because of the social environment around me. It didn't facilitate my personal growth. So, when I chose to break up with my partner, it was really a choice for me going, I'm going to fucking bank on myself now.
Yeah.
And, let this gut thing take me where it needs to go. And so I broke up with them November 2019. And then again, 3 or 4 months later, lockdowns are happening. And and I've said this before in the pod, people have heard this so many times in this pod, but in that time, previously, I wish that there was a place where I could cocoon and just hide away, sort my shit out, come back this new, refreshed, different person. And when I saw that these lockdowns were happening, I was like, this is the opportunity. This is it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what I did. It's just, I hid away. I was already on the process of just starting to sort my shit out. I literally started therapy probably March 2020, maybe Feb 2020.
Damn, right on the cusp.
Yeah, and then I started doing coaching with Nikita, with my diet guy. Literally, I signed up like Feb 27th, 2020. So then I was like, this is the opportunity. And I said that from day one. Like, I had mates who were talking to me like, fuck, what am I going to do with myself? One of my best mates listens to this pod. He was, he's a photographer in London and everything shut down. He's like, man, what the fuck do I do with myself? I said, man, you're never going to get this opportunity again to fucking buckle in, sort your problems out, refresh, realign, right? You've got money coming in. You'll survive. I had money coming in. I was still working. I worked throughout the entire pandemic. And, this is a time to retool, re-equip, realign who you want to be. What's your next step? And that's what I took it for. So the awakening was happening. The acceleration of it happened during lockdown. And I let it happen. And I wanted it to happen that way. Because, I said it's an opportunity. There's opportunity in all chaos. I didn't need the outside world. Right? And that all his personal growth came from just going, fuck everyone else off.
Mm.
And yeah, that's, deep healing, a lot of processing, having to fucking will myself through workouts, do cardio for the first time properly in a long time.
Mm.
Just suck it up. How many more times are you going to bullshit your way out of these things? You know it's good for you.
Mm.
You've outsourced the two things that you have not been able to handle properly to other people and trusted them with it. Your physical health and your mental health.
Mm.
Just like you said, you've got to outsource those things if you're not good at it. You need the help outside of yourself. Because in the reality is we're caught up in our own stories, and that's what paralyzes us. And you need that outsider's perspective to go, hang on, man, you're caught up in your ego. You're caught up in your bullshit here. Things aren't that bad. Because you'll know, every time you face the ego, you face that next level of hurt or, that conditioning, the war of emotion and panic comes straight up, right?
100%. Yeah.
Like, this is fucking dumb. This is silly. Oh, we don't need to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to be fixed.
Don't we all, man? Don't we all? But,
I mean, I understand it probably can't be completely fixed 100%, but like mostly fixed, like 80%. I'll take 80%.
Yeah.
Fixed enough to function and excel. Sometimes, I think to myself, like I ask myself, like, okay, let's say in life or lately, like if you looked at life as a percentage, right? How much effort have you put in? 0 to 100%. Like a lot of times I think I'm probably at like 20, maybe 40.
Yeah.
Like, that's all I'm putting in. Like with comedy, honestly, I think I'm like 15, maybe 20%. Like I'm not trying. I mean, I'm trying, but like there's some kind of ceiling resistance in me, and there's a whole bunch of shit or whatever. But like, like I am not trying. Like my last 2 festival shows were both split shows where someone else asked me if I want to do a show. I don't even know what registering for comedy festival is like, and stuff. There's a whole bunch of shit that like I've not really kind of tried, and it's also a false security in that where it's like, well, I haven't really given it a full crack. If I give it a full crack, it'll be so fucking awesome, blah blah blah. So there's this kind of lie you can
mental
tell yourself.
masturbation.
Because then it's like, okay, if let's say I gave it 100% and I was like kind of okay, then it's like, fuck, is that all I am? Then you have to contend with shit. My whole identity was based on this thing, this comedy thing.
Yep.
And I'm not that good. I'm all right.
Yeah.
Like then you can't lie to yourself and go, yeah, but I'm not giving it my all. If I gave it my all, I'm sure it'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of shit in there. Just want to fix it.
Yeah, man. I get it. And look, 80% fixed is very, very possible, right?
No doubt.
You've
done like crazy shit in the last 2 years. Look at you doing this and your whole studio setup and doing the ACN, a whole bunch of shit.
Yeah, right. And
this is a massive, man.
Yeah, but this is honestly, man, I think I'm about 50% done.
I feel like but you keep going though.
Yeah, because I got momentum on my side. And again, that once awakened part, I'm not going back. I'm just going deeper. Because we were talking about before, I'm throwing a lot of money in investing in a lot of stuff in this. And I have the money to, which I'm glad for, right? I have a good job that helps you earn this stuff.
Give me some money. Am I getting paid for this?
Yeah. I'll buy you dinner. But yeah, but the thing is there is so much more to it because the as you awaken, as you ascend that process, it goes for what can I do? What have I got fixed to? What can't I do now? Right. And then you start to appreciate the process of the growth, and it's slower. Right. So it's like a video game. You get to a certain level pretty easy, and then you got to fucking grind to get those fucking top level shit. And that's where I'm at now. But to get there, yeah, I had to go through this intense period of realigning. And you're on there, man. And it'll happen. It'll happen for you quicker than you think because you have the momentum, right? You've taken the steps. You just need to take the steps and keep applying to it, right?
No doubt.
Like I honestly did that first transformation, again, through expert guidance, don't get me wrong, in 4 months. So I was shredded like July 2020. Like,
What was your highest fat percentage? You know,
man, well, in my entire life, I definitely
or
was
like let's say in the last decade.
in the last decade,
Or
probably about 30% body fat.
okay, you slim bitch. I'm at 32 right now.
Yeah, but I could be more. I never really measured,
Yeah,
right? But easily hovering in the high 20s
yeah,
most of my adult life.
yeah.
When I was a kid, the worst part, I was probably about 35, almost 40%.
By the way, I just realized I just said I'm 32 right now. There's probably people listening. If they are, they'll probably be like, gross. A third of you is fat. You
Trust me, man, there are plenty that are worse. Man, there are plenty of worse. And we see them all the time. And people don't understand the numbers, right? Because like abs is 10% body fat.
So nuts, man. The lowest I ever got to, like during lockdown, I also lost a bunch of weight and stuff. I got down to like, I think I was like 26% body fat.
Yeah.
Or 25 or something. And that was like and it's like still a quarter of your whole body weight is fat, but it was like such an amazing difference.
Yeah.
Imagine, 10% is nuts, man.
Yeah.
I'll be fucking mad bitches.
Man,
I don't need to use my personality.
Trust me, you do. You do.
Bro.
You do, man.
With this personality and those abs, shit.
Hey, that's what I thought, man.
None of you chicks stand a chance. I'm going to ruin some lives.
Let me tell you something, man. I'm sitting at around probably about 12%.
I'm going to create some depression. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to cause some bad coping mechanisms.
Yeah, I'm going to deepen some daddy issues.
Couldn't be the binge shagger.
Well, that's what, honestly, man, I thought that was what I was going to be. I thought when I first left my relationship, because I don't have much of a body count. Like, I was in a committed relationship my entire 20s.
I love this. I don't have much of a body count.
Yeah, I haven't really fucked that many bitches. But yeah, but then you realize it's not about that. Yeah, and then because then you go, because this is what happens. You get shredded, right? This is what happened to me. I got lean, and I still had the fucking problems in my head.
Ah, yes.
And it doesn't. Yeah. That's what I mean, and that's why this podcast is about mental health and talking about the mental shit as opposed to the physical.
That's very true. It's very true. Like, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, I was probably like 15 kilos lighter, and at that time, I thought I was some fat bitch.
Yeah,
and I had more hair. I mean, I'm losing my hair like a motherfucker, hence the hat.
Right.
But like, I was a handsome bastard, man.
Yeah.
Like 10, 12 years ago. And I didn't hook up with barely anyone. But because I think I just wasn't that confident. Or if I hooked up, it was by accident. Or I wasn't really trying. I'll go for the low-hanging fruit. You know what I mean? let's just say that. But then now I look back, I'm like, fuck, if I, like I could have done so much better, but it was just lack of confidence. And then like I talked to like some female friends and they're like, honestly, it doesn't matter how you look or whatever. Like, I mean, unless you're like some disgusting fellow.
Yeah.
But like generally it's like what, these few chicks have said is like swagger, confidence, and all these kind of shit.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we know certain people in the comedy scene who I will not name. But you kind of see who they've hooked up with. You're like, what, really? This guy, he's out of his fucking mind. He looks homeless.
Yeah.
But
was that a hint?
He's punching way above his
yeah.
He's punching way above his weight because he's got some kind of swagger or confidence or whatever.
Yeah. Because women they value direction and they value drive and clarity.
Yeah,
as
like you're
opposed
the man, like Patrice O'Neill, he was a man.
Yeah.
He was confident and everything, and yeah.
Yeah, because he had that.
I feel bad for women because guys are so shallow. It doesn't matter how confident you are. It's lost. It's a lost cause. Forget it. Just wear a short skirt. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, there is certainly something to that. But yeah, again, losing weight, my confidence, the mental game, that takes a long time to rebuild back up, and that's what I'm going through the process of now. And even let's call it, I've been lean for 2 years now, right? And there is still elements of my personality that keep me from being fully confident and present in relationships at the moment. You're talking about problems with intimacy. That's the shit I'm currently working through now.
Yeah, is
how do I healthily connect with a partner, with somebody else, and sort of work through my own shit and my own self-value in a relationship, because it hasn't been healthy for 30 years. Every example of interactions with females and the feminine and women, from my parents' relationship to relationship that I was in previously, just was not healthy. And again, I don't blame my partner for any of that at all. It's just though I've come to realize, only looking back now, that the patterns of behavior that were negative in my parents' life, my home life, I've brought that with me. And then everyone's doing that. That's the whole point of this intergenerational trauma shit, is going, those shitty behaviors that your parents had, you have those in your wiring somewhere, because we as children are just learning machines and we don't recognize it, right? It goes into the subconscious and it goes to the behaviors that we're not acutely aware of, right? Becoming more conscious. That's the stuff that we're talking about now, is our conscious minds, and leveraging our conscious minds to undo the damage and the conditioning and the stories we tell ourselves of the subconscious. And that's what this healing process, the core of a healing process is using that what we identify as our best and highest selves, the ones that have the drive and the go and the self-actualization, is actually based on letting go of the dead weight of our past and the things that told us we couldn't. That's the process of healing, of self-actualization in the internal world. The external world of self-actualization is just the pursuit of whatever you define your identity to be. A good comedian, a good business person, a great father, whatever it is. And that's one of the core things that I've learned is that. And that came from self-awareness therapy. And this is why I keep talking about it now, is because that conversation needs to be normalized for people to suffer less.
No doubt. No
Yeah.
doubt, man.
Mate, that actually might be a good way to end this, because it's
That's a great way to end it.
7:45.
No doubt.
But
Take
Gary,
care of your head.
yeah, that's it, man.
Sort your shit out.
That's what this podcast is about, baby. Gary,
Don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
That's it.
Especially dudes.
That's it. 100%.
You're only a bitch if you're afraid of it.
Yeah, but
you're only a bitch if you don't do it.
Yeah, but forgive yourself for not doing it, right?
True.
Forgive yourself for not doing it, but try again.
Just don't listen to your idiot friends who make you feel bad for being vulnerable. Don't worry about it.
Correct.
They got their own shit. Fuck them.
Listen to these bad motherfuckers on this podcast every single week.
No doubt, bro.
Thank you, brother. Thanks for being here.
Thanks,
what are
brother.
the people, if they want to see more of you? When are you going to put up where can they see your clips that are going to come up soon?
When I get over my shit, I'll put up clips. Garry Johal Comedian on Instagram, Garry Johal on Facebook. I'm on Twitter as well, but I've deleted every human on Twitter because Twitter upsets me. So I just follow inanimate accounts about archaeology and shit.
Nice.
Because I don't want to listen to people's opinions. It really makes me depressed.
Yeah, I've stopped caring about people's opinions.
Yeah. So my Twitter is just pure entertainment.
Good.
And my Twitter picture isn't even a picture of me. It's of a naga, like a snake head at a temple in Chiang Mai.
All right.
So follow me on Twitter if you want. I haven't posted anything in 3 years.
Oh, yes. But definitely check out Gary. Come to any of Gary's shows if you've got shit coming up. Very, very funny. One of my favorites. Guys, you know where to find me. Aussie Comedy Network, Foots Great Comedy Club, all that good stuff. Like, share, and subscribe. Thank you very much, Binges, for being a part of this, and we'll see you again next week. Take care for now. Bye.